Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Let me get rid of that. And click. Actually, before we get rid of that, everybody, if we could just say a thank you to Cell for coming by, helping out, hanging out.
Indeed.
Thank you, Sal.
Obviously, Neil had
thank you,
something
Sal.
pop up, and we would have had to represent the Barrenlands a little bit differently if we didn't have that third person to really absorb some of it. So it allowed it to be represented the kind of the way I wanted it to, as opposed to a different way. So a big thank you to Celsius for choosing to. Remember, he lives in the same time zone as me. So to wake up at like 6:30 in the morning, let's be honest, he just wouldn't go to sleep at night, and go live at 7 a.m. or whatever time it was. I got up and started. So again, a big appreciation to him for helping out. All right. So Jake, you actually just asked me a question, which is definitely a better question to answer for everybody. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was a little confused about Metahinas and their family, and I would just ask Scott if it's taboo to inquire about your family when you're a Metahina.
It's illegal to utilize your family name, resources, or influence for yourself. Inquiring about them there's nothing wrong with asking about them. And the reason why you're not seen in public with them, the reason why you don't spend time with them, so on and so forth, is because, I know it sounds really weird, but because the laws are so strict, depending on which province you're in, which judge is overseeing it, so on and so forth. If you and your brother were to go out to dinner and he were to pay the bill, is that you utilizing your family's resources? Yeah. If you guys were to go out to dinner and your brother bumped into somebody that he knew and was like, "Oh yeah, this is Viggo, my friend," that's, are you utilizing your family's influence? So generally speaking, the big rule of thumb is, just don't. But does that mean that there aren't people that totally do it and keep it secret? I'm sure there are. Does that mean there aren't areas where there's like probably a rather loose judge, or maybe they have influence over the judge, where they can get away with what's going on? Yeah, that's totally possible too. But more likely, if you like really miss your family, if it's like, the homesick child that really wants to see mommy and give her a big hug, which, hey, we all get it. We all have mommies. We all like to get a mommy hug every once in a while. You usually meet somewhere, like on like a family holiday, away from where people wouldn't necessarily know who either party is involved. They wouldn't necessarily recognize it, or even if they could clearly tell, like you look similar, they wouldn't know your names, so they wouldn't know that there was anything uncouth going on there. You just kind of like get away to do it. More often than not, that could be like a remote region or a different country. But utilizing your family's influence in another country is just as illegal in Paradel. Even though it's not in Paradel, as long as they find out about it. So, you can totally imagine that some Metahinas will get the sent over to parts. I don't have a proper map up, but sent over to, like, let's say the northeastern, the Daellands, or far over in what's it called? I'm trying to remember the name of the Arcane Congress, the gnome country. Eustace, thank you. So over in Eustace and whatnot. But it's difficult though, because you might be able to be like, oh, shouldn't we just go over to like Yovance or up into the T1 there? But the problem with that is you're at war with those countries, so they don't exactly want your immigrants. You know what I mean? When you're actively trying to overthrow their government and absorb their entire nation, you're gonna kind of assume that everybody is a plant, is a spy. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. But I hope that answers your question, even if it's a little long-winded.
Yeah, it does. Also, I want to state, obviously in all my reports, I don't mention the fact that I transform.
Oh yeah. I think that was, you kept that a little bit on the DL beforehand. So, and that's not even to the one that knows the secrets about Gallon, correct?
Yeah, and not to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
The only people that have seen it are Gallon, Tristan, and Ethis.
Yep. So, you guys are going to, of course, get back onto your little caravan ride, your trek back across the lands from Orid to McGlynn, making your way over there to go and meet up with Sea Pearl again, as we discussed beforehand. Again, last time we're going to ask any details leaving Orid, the travel across, or coming into McGlynn that your characters might want to look into, anything, items or anything of interest before you kind of jump into the meeting.
Treating Braga.
I mean, McGlynn's the bigger,
lots of extra stuff.
Huh?
The bigger town or city, right? So McGlynn would have stuff more so than here.
Oh, yep, absolutely.
Yeah. I'll just wait till we get back to McGlynn to get stuff.
You're back in McGlynn.
We are back in McGlynn.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I do want to buy
Wow,
something.
that was impressively smooth travel.
Yeah. I like it. All right, well, what do you
We should
want
do
me
this
to
more
tell you
often.
what I want to buy, or do you want to do other stuff first?
It's one of those bananas with
we
the
can
insides
do
that
this
got a
later.
little bit of a stiffness to it. Always bugs me out. Like, is there a worm in there? What am I biting? You know what I mean?
I don't know what it was, but you said that. I looked over and I just saw Jake suppress a joke or something. You could tell he was going to say something and then he didn't.
I mean, it's it always bugs me out when it has like the core, you know, like right down the center, and it has like a bit of a bite to it. That freaks me out a little. I won't lie. It's because Brittany likes to eat her bananas slightly underripe. Like, she likes to have her bananas have a little bite to them. I never got used to it. It's like, grr, Brittany, and your weird habits. I'm sorry, you were saying, Jake?
Oh, I was just saying, not something that needs to be done now, but I want to buy something eventually.
Well, we can definitely take care of it now to get it out of the way.
Okay, sure. I would like to buy one of these.
Because that way I can just tell you no.
That's not very nice now, is it?
I'm not a very
There's
nice
a
person.
alchemist place here, and I want some supplies. Where's that chat? There you go.
I'm done dissecting the banana. I don't know. I ate most of it.
Well done.
Yeah. It's bugging me out.
Realize Neil still has 7 healing potions on him. We're gonna have to
kill him and take him.
confiscate some of those.
Hello,
I
Father.
can wait till he's
All right, what are you posting? What are you? I don't even know where you're posting anything.
Discord,
chat,
I believe.
yeah.
Gotcha.
I'd like to buy one of these.
Oh, okay, I'm clicking all over the place, but not the correct spot.
I thought that was his reaction to what you chose. I'm like, oh my god, he really doesn't like that idea.
This magically augmented.
I have mental. Oh no, never mind. I remember where I need to go for my stuff. Uvinci is where I have to go to buy the stuff that I want to buy, right? If we ever happen to be over there.
So more or less, you consume. Oh, it does not harm the.
Does not consume.
That is that is not expensive enough for what that's pulling off.
That is what it is.
No, and that is not the correct price for what that's pulling off.
I love how he's like, "Oh, this is really." Hang on.
That
a
is
second.
something that I think
I want to
when
read
I'm
this
reading,
now.
it's the only thing that allows alchemists to study potions to put in their formula book.
And it's only 200 gold pieces.
Only 200 gold pieces.
That seems a little cheap to me, there, buddy.
Hey, I don't write the stuff. That's what it is.
So these do exist inside of McGlynn. They do. They are here. They belong to the military, and they're specifically inside of that facility that's here, so to be used. They can't be purchased, but you can ask for time to utilize the device if you have time inside the laboratory. Remember how I said there's that area that's more for like the master potion making, so on and so forth. So it would be like something like that that's accessible right there.
Well, I mean, if it's accessible, I mean, I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to buy one, but if I can still use one, you know, when I'm here, then that's fine.
Yep. So the idea is that you would be able to utilize it through there. As for purchasing one yourself, you definitely could try to see if you can find one to figure it out. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what would that even be?
Finding stuff on the so trying to find items on the black market, I believe is, or in a shop or whatever it is. I think that's gather information technically. So it is a diplomacy check technically.
So does this allow you to learn new potions?
It more or less makes it so he could take a potion, boil it, and it makes like more or less a couple drops get siphoned off of the potion, allowing the potion to still fully function. He takes a sip of those drops, and it gives him the knowledge to then write the extract into his extract list.
I still have to pay for it though, as per normal rules.
But it's only 200 gold pieces to buy the item.
Yeah.
Like when a wizard copies a scroll into a spell book, it consumes the scroll. So if this consumes the potion to do that, I would be like, oh, that's cool. But when I read that it doesn't, I'm like, wait, what? So you can copy a scroll without consuming it? That sounds like some BS right there. Definitely not worth 200 gold pieces. Definitely worth closer to like say 2,000 gold pieces. Like, it looks like they forgot a 0 in there. You know, even
it kind of does.
Yeah, even 2,000 seems a little lax, but
yeah, I mean, there's no point of me not trying to find one. So, I mean,
But by the way, I do like the idea that the way it works is almost like we were talking about percolators before. So just imagine a percolator, but at the top it has a whole bunch of little compartments. And so instead of it making this like weird little drink that he sips and gives him knowledge, it's weird. It like could turn it could turn like a friggin', I don't know, abjuration spell into a divination spell, I guess. Like that to me is weird. So I like the idea that like you boil the potion inside there and it actually separates it out into separates the ingredients into these small little compartments, but it brings like a proportionate amount of each ingredient. So he's able to identify the ingredients and the proportions, because let's say the container is, I don't know, 100 milliliters for argument's sake, and there's like 1 milliliter proportionately up inside the area. Like that to me is kind of cool, because then you can imagine him writing down the extract. It's him like mathing out what those ingredients are, how much of each, reversing the math the other way.
That does sound cool.
Like,
Yeah.
to me, that makes more sense.
Yeah. To be honest, if you're okay with it, I mean, I have no problem with it destroying the potion.
See, one of those you could find on the market.
I'll get one of them
Because that would break it down into its components.
Either way, you know what I mean?
Hmm?
This is very important for me. So
Yeah,
losing a potion,
I think
I'm not too worried about to learn.
that makes sense, because then it would, like, as he said, literally break the potion down into space components, so you can be like, you need this much of this much of this.
Yeah. So I could see now, if you wanted to break down the potion, I could totally see that being like a less refined, like a lesser version of that, and that totally could fly.
This could be like a masterwork version almost.
Yeah,
if you want to call it that,
or like a greater version. It's usually used the phrases lesser and greater in magic items. So this would be like a lesser. So you would buy the one that breaks it down is like a lesser version. And to answer kind of like what Green says there, and then he mixes it back up again. Not exactly, because what it is that you it breaks down the components, but it also kind of like destroys the bonds that made them that way. It's almost like you can cook up a piece of meat, but you cooked it wrong, so you cook it up more. Cooking meat doesn't exactly work that way. So like it was made and then he broke it down. He can't just put it back together. But you could of course mix an extract afterwards, which is effectively free. So, cool. I'm fine with that. That doesn't bother me. Sorry, DM instincts. Like, this seems pretty sus there, buddy. What book did you get this from? Oh.
I linked it here. I promise I didn't write it.
No, it's alternate equipment. Definitely.
Just double checking the area. I just off of memory, my brain is having a lapse. The area where I have to be close to before I can look into getting the special items that I'm looking for is Yovincia, right? The psionic stuff.
Oh, you just need to talk to what's her name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh huh.
Which that's in Yovincia, right?
Uh huh.
Yeah. So that was what I wanted to make sure. So if we ever go off that way, I know to make a detour.
Yep. Gotcha. All right, cool. So either way, and I am fine with you finding it for 200 gold pieces to be able to extract that. You know what I mean? Again, this is a place with a big alchemist thing. So the only thing is because you're probably buying it through the military, right? For them to have the ability for you to access this. So more or less like, okay, you're finding this, you're purchasing it through them, but in purchasing it through them, you're actually going to at the cost of, what is it? 200. So at base cost, you just kind of like signed in a commitment or like a contract with it that when you break down potions and learn new formulae, you're supposed to then share your formulae with the military itself. So in case you were to discover something new or unique, if it's like a lesser one that you know is pretty well known, you don't have to do it. If it's a new or unique one, you're supposed to pass it in. But here's the big thing. You can always play ignorant. Oh, I thought you guys had that spell. Haha.
And that counts for not just extract. Does it count for extracts that I just learn on my own?
Well, your own personal development is different. That's like your own personal research. You don't have to hand over all your own. Yeah, you don't work for Google, right? They don't take everything that you've done since you've gotten hired by them and say it belongs to us now.
Yeah,
I think he means just like potions you learn through the device.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I like that one. That's good.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would make it difficult for you as a person to have your own, like, namesake, right? Anyways, all right, cool. So, back to the game. You guys are, so you go in there, you're going to purchase that item for yourself. It's a fun little percolator looking thing. I imagine it literally looks kind of like a so that you make espresso with, right? Like you actually have like the little thing that you put the potion in, and as it boils, it shoots up into the different containers and anything else that you guys doing before?
No, we haven't got paid for this job, so.
And you're not going to.
That's right.
At least one person isn't. Am I pointing the right way? I am. All right.
Oh, see, on my screen you were pointing to me. I'm like, what I do?
Neil. So you we'll have to vote. Does he level and does he get money? So
yes, he level.
No, he doesn't get money.
We're not doing that, Scott. We're not doing that.
So you you guys are going to go and, of course, report back to Seapearl to give her kind of the news, because we already did a lot of RP of reporting with the other one because I knew you wanted to get a bit of information from her. I'm not going to have you go through the whole thing again. You can imagine that she's a very busy person, being the I can't remember her rank.
She was. Where's it? BC.
Yep, BC. Sorry, I just opened up my ranks here. So BC. I just have to look at the names to trigger the memory. So so you when you go and meet with her being a BC, she's a very busy person. So she doesn't have time to just meet with you as soon as you walk into town like you're the most important person ever. Instead, it's one of those things where you guys come into town, you put in to meet with her, but you also going to pass in your report. All of your reports of everything that kind of had transpired, everything you want to do, and even hand over the map of the region for her to be able to cross-reference while it is that she's doing all this. So you hand over all the documentation to her, and the person informs you that you'll be contacted as needed. But until then, consider yourself on like not on leave, but you're in active duty. You know what I mean? So you're stay nearby, stay stationed, say this, that, and the other thing, but you don't have any direct tasks that you need to handle, just like you're kind of like mundane or routine things. So let's say, for instance, Galen, well outside of where he was originally trained, well outside of his comfort zone, so on and so forth, he actually doesn't technically have any additional responsibilities here. He just needs to maintain his training that he's supposed to do every day. So Galen probably spends about 4 hours a day during these next few days, literally just meditating. Right.
I was about to say, honestly, that's what he would do, because it's the when you're in the barren lands, like he would be constantly on edge, so the physical side of things would still be pushed, but he would have no opportunity to do any of the mental side of things, like no meditation or anything. So that would be what he'd be behind on and he'd want to catch up with. So that'd be perfect. That's what he would be doing this time.
Yep. So would you do more than just the obligatory 4 hours?
Probably, actually. He would spend most of the day unless someone else like came and got him, or if he like he might do like the one day a week he would do the minimum and then go and find somewhere to not so much meditate but just sort of rest. Like I don't know if there's parks or anything, like somewhere where he can just sort of sit and relax.
Yep, absolutely there would be. I mean, not to mention, don't forget, there's a whole like dock in the area, so there's definitely like a nice
and he actually
park
probably
area
would
overseeing
enjoy
the
that
sea.
as well.
Mm-hmm. Sorry?
Yeah, so most of the time he would spend meditating, and then occasionally he would go and relax a bit, get some fresh air.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just so you can kind of like enjoy that sort of a thing. So I imagine your character is doing a lot of his, as you just said, meditation or whatever. Back to you though, Jake. What would your character be doing in this situation?
I would be trying, now that I have just some time and I can go to this alchemy lab. I'm going to try and see if that gargoyle stuff is still viable. Had to wait till I leveled.
Gotcha. Completely understand. So you're going to actually do a little bit of alchemy. You can go ahead and make those checks.
Yep. All right. Was it craft alchemy last time, which I will be obviously using crafter's fortune for.
Okay.
5. $26.
Are you happy with your 26, or did you want to see if you could affect that at all?
We don't have any luck.
You're welcome to try. At the very least, for my entertainment.
I'm just gonna leave it.
You sure?
Yeah.
So leveling separate to party members is prior to Pathfinder, it was a very, very normal thing. Just to answer what you're saying in chat there, Tesh.
Oh yeah, but like I was also about to add, like, especially because if it's because of IRL stuff, that may compound feelings that this person may already be having in their everyday life if they're falling behind in the game as well.
But it's not falling behind.
Really
So in other editions, not in Pathfinder, prior to Pathfinder, item creation. Actually, I think even in Pathfinder, I can't recall. Pathfinder, I'm gonna double check. But in other editions, item creation required experience points. I think in Pathfinder they remove that aspect. So you're not falling behind per se. If you're actually crafting a magic item, base price, and then so because it's supposed to cost gold, time, and experience points. I think Pathfinder removed that aspect. So
yeah, I'm still I'm not sure I like that idea.
So but hold on. But you have to listen to the reasoning. A fighter in 3rd edition, 2nd edition, all those, they suck compared to a wizard. Wizards, clerics, sorcerers, all those are called god classes for a reason. They are brokenly powerful compared to the PCs around them. They're so insanely powerful that a 17th level wizard can foresee almost every problem, use magic to overcome almost every issue. A fighter is more or less just the tank that you use because you didn't feel like paying a pawn to be the tank for you. Like, you're so insanely more powerful than everybody around you that it's an unbalanced game once you get to level 5, and even more so every level beyond that. So one of the counterbalances is that classes like wizards have to spend experience points to create magic items for themselves, like scrolls, potions, swords, armor, all that stuff. They create magic items for themselves and for the parties members around them, allow them to fall behind in level, but still be equally, if not more powerful than the rest of the party. Because a level 20 fighter against a level 15 wizard, the wizard wins every day. Every single day. Like, no, not even that day. Every fucking day, that wizard wins. And they're not even they're not even 9th level spells.
I can understand that. I don't see that as positives.
No, but so what I'm saying is the game is already unbalanced. So that's one of the things you use to balance the game, because it's already unbalanced.
I'm glad. What I'll say is I'm glad it's moved away from that.
And then even in your earlier editions, if you were playing a rogue, the rogues would usually hit level, I think, 3.5, almost level 4, by the time that a fighter or a wizard had enough experience points to hit level 2. So in first and second edition, because the classes were unbalanced, they rebalanced it by saying it costs more experience points to gain a level in a different class. So rogues and bards and stuff like that would level much more rapidly because they were weaker classes than a fighter or a wizard. They would take more experience to level because they were stronger classes. So it's just one of those things that you... So I get what you're saying for the sake of...
I'm glad it's moved away from that.
Yeah, but I moved away from it in 5e at the cost of all the versatility that we have in things like Pathfinder. And then in Pathfinder, you move away from it and you have the versatility, but then it's broken as shit. Like fighters will always be a sad class compared to a god class. They're a tier 4. I think, no, or a fighter's tier 3. Through the tier 3 is tier 4. Which means that more or less your character is effectively useless at high levels compared to the other ones. And if you're walking into the game saying, I don't mind being useless, okay, then that's a thing. But you have to know that going in. Otherwise, then you have the same exact thing you're talking about with compounded anxiety.
That's why I still advocate that I would really love a nice balance between what 5e does well and what Pathfinder does well. It'd be very hard to do, but you know, it's a wish. That's my like ultimate wish for D&D is finding a happy balance between the two.
In my personal experience across all the different systems that I've played, the best way to balance giving wizards and clerics and all them all the power that they have in Pathfinder, but still we'll say all the balance of 5e, because 5e is still not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But the much closer to balance that 5e offers, and this is very controversial for people that like playing spellcasters, you enhance, so you increase spellcasting time. That's it.
Yeah.
You just make it, it's no longer a standard action to cast any spell. You just say, oh, well, spells, you can cast them, sure, but they're weaker for a standard action, or it takes 1 round or 2 rounds or 3 or 4 rounds to do longer spells. It makes you that much more powerful, but it requires you to then be that much more vulnerable while you're doing it.
It could also be interesting because then you could have characters that are specifically good at protecting them while they're casting the spell or something like that. And I think that's actually a decent idea. There's a lot to build off with that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's, I mean, again, so that's something that I like the idea of. Actually, it's done in GURPS. In GURPS, if you want to cast more powerful spells, you have to extend the amount of time that you're casting the spell for, making you that much more vulnerable to the people attacking you. There's ways to get around that, but like there takes a lot of training, and it's not for every spell. And anyways, but the idea of that, Tesh, I think could fix the system. But now you're sitting there and saying, hey, you want to be a spellcaster? Well, guess what? For 3 rounds of combat, and you know how long a round of combat can be, your turn is, I keep casting. And that's it. That's your turn.
Well, it's funny because that is an issue, but it's also amusing because one of the biggest complaints that like I've heard why people don't like playing martial classes in 5e, they're like, oh, but all my turn is just a hit thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it's interesting that like it's a similar problem, but there would be ways around it.
Yep, but I mean that's been since the beginning of tabletops. That was, as a matter of fact, the last character Brittany ever played was a I had 3-point Scott, right, as Mike likes to call it. I had come up with my own version of Monk to make him more exciting, utilizing the rules from the Seven Swords books. To make it more exciting, and for Brittany. And so she had a very finite number of like special abilities she could use, including like stances and guards and stuff like that. But for the most part, she would just attack. And for her, for fun, I had written on her character sheet, like, because she was I think she was like a cat-like creature or some shit like that. I don't remember. But I had done I had written like different types of attacks on there. And so it was like, you know, if you wanted to like this kind of, or this, or whatever it was, just to like help remind her and describing her attacks differently. So I'd written on the piece of paper, like claw versus roundhouse versus, but they were all effectively the same thing. The only difference was for one of them, I included the features of power attack. But then like after the second session, even though she knew that because she's not an idiot, it like clicked for her. She's like, wait, so all I'm doing is just attacking every round? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, it's so boring. I'm like, well, you have these other abilities you can use. It's like, but then you run out of them in the first combat. I'm like, well, yeah. You can play a mage. She's like, it's too much work. I don't have time for that. I'm in college. You know?
I have a lot of fun. Like I'm currently playing a barbarian in an off-stream game, and I have a lot of fun describing how I attack.
Yeah.
Especially with it being a barbarian, it's a lot of fun to just go really over the top with descriptions about how you attack, and it can, even if you happen to roll abysmally or really well, it gives the DM something to work with as well if you describe exactly how you go for the attack.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why you often hear me say, describe that kill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I trigger that because some people want to describe every attack. You give Neil a microphone and he's going to talk, right? But some people are a little bit less comfortable. Like if you look at Rena's first couple of sessions, she was very uncomfortable with talking, so on and so forth. She was new to it. We were strangers to her. I'm still strange to her. I'm just strange, but the first time, if you actually like watch the old session, the first combat she was in, and I say to her, describe that kill. This is, I think, her session 0. It's like her eyes light up, like she's excited about the idea of like, ooh, full autonomy of how it is I get to end this person's life. Okay, it might be to blame to some degree for
she got the kill on the big bad of our off-stream campaign as well. A similar reaction.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Getting the
And with that, let's bring it back in.
Yeah, let's go back.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But to button it off, sorry, I get with what you're saying, but there are intrinsic negative features if you straight up, everybody's always the same, depending on the system that you're in.
Yeah, depending on the system, I'll go with that. I think, like, in systems that don't use that stuff, I really loathe the idea of the leveling separately, just because it is so easy for someone to feel like they're not helping if someone else can do...
In 5e, if you die and come back to life, is there not a penalty?
So that depends... So a lot of... That is the biggest problem I think a lot of people have with 5e, because almost everyone I play with has rules that to go with it, where resurrection's not as easy as it is in default 5e.
You see, like there's no penalty to dying, because like in the old editions, when you die and you come back to life as halfway through the one level prior. So if you're like halfway through level 9, and you come back as halfway through 8. If you just hit level 9, you come back halfway through 8.
A little differently from a lot of DMs these days, because there was actually a discussion that happened on TikTok recently where a whole bunch of DMs were talking. There are some DMs that have never killed a player character. Well, that's the thing. It's a different style of play.
Yeah.
So that, for them, the fact that someone hasn't died is not a big issue, because
I mean, I wear mittens. I won't lie. I wear mittens as a DM, but to never have killed depends. It makes me wonder how many years they've been DMing. You know. So
it wouldn't be nearly. It wouldn't be like. It'd be the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be like as nearly as long as you have. But like
See, I feel like I was a bigger jerk a long time ago. Like I would definitely murder people left and right, because you learn combat before you learn story.
It's a different perspective. Like the view on the importance of certain aspects of the game.
I think my dad had no problem killing us. He had zero qualms. Just like, you die.
We better go back to the game or Jake's gonna fall asleep.
Oh yeah. We go back to Jake. Yeah. So,
I'm good. I was just answering emails.
But my dad has definitely killed my characters. Like without only one time did he feel bad. Only one time ever, and it was because it was my first session. It was the second round of the first combat. My first session, I died. So it was. That was the only time he felt bad, and he was like, "The NPC has a staff, and he brings you back to life." And I was like, "Okay, cool. So I'll just like lose a level." And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Yeah, Dad. When you come back to life, you did raise dead. I come back halfway up the level prior." And he's like, "No, you don't have to." I was like, "No, Dad. It's cool. It's all good. You killed me round 2 of the first combat. Don't worry about it. It's all good, man. I'm a rogue. I'm more powerful than these schlubs, anyways. I know the rules. You know, like I'm good." But all right, let's get back to the game. Jake, where were we? Remind me.
We just finished doing what we was. Galen was resting or something, and I just finished. Oh yeah, you were telling me if it was viable or not, the gargoyle thing.
Oh, that's right. And you were rolling a 26, and you were trying to decide whether or not you wanted to use luck dice. I honestly couldn't recall your response.
No, I'm not using it.
Gotcha. And you were trying to find out what it was viable for?
Well, I got some of it, but
Yeah, I remember that.
To see what was like what it could be used for, any of its properties or anything like that.
Gotcha.
So
So one of the things that you so you're just more or less learning about it. So you said viable for, so I wasn't sure if there was something specific you were trying to apply it towards. You're saying more or less what unique properties it has.
yeah.
That being said, one of the things that you notice that, about it is it seems to be very reactive to certain types of effects you would try to utilize on it. So let's say, for instance, if you were trying to just do typical alchemical reactions with it, it actually doesn't seem to react much to just a basic like alchemical reaction, like Alka-Seltzer inside of a seagull's belly, right? That kind of basic chemical reaction, while horrifying, I'm sure Jake does to his bin pigeons or whatever he calls bin rats, whatever he calls them in Australia.
The ibises.
But when you use your chemical reactions that you do, that we're talking about the ones that borderline on magical results. So not, again, just a basic one, but an actual like borderline magic, like where it goes beyond like the physics and chemistry and starts to have this otherworldly effect, producing like not electrical charges or fire or acid, because that's pretty basic, but having those like effects that have like growing your body. I'm apparently at a loss for words here, and I do apologize about that. But where it goes from the physical chemistry to the metaphysical magic, right? When you apply a small amount of it to these kinds of reactions, you can see you get a much more, shall we say, explosive reaction, like a much stronger charged reaction. You can see that it is empowered greatly. That's what I'm looking for. Empowered greatly. It's actually kind of like shocking to see how much it does so. So say, for instance, we're talking about like an enlarged person kind of spell, slightly modified to be able to work on small things like ants. It doesn't have like a huge effect. So let's say, for instance, when you're working on your large person potions, usually on a person it doubles their size. So when you put it on an ant, it, again, as previously discussed, would have its effect of doubling the size of the ant. So it goes from being this big to this big. Woo! You know what I mean? But when you apply this aspect to it, all of a sudden you see the ant gets even slightly larger than that, like another 50% larger, putting on even more of its mass. You see that when you put it onto another potion that you have, let's say, because I don't know what extracts you have on your character sheet. Let me pull that open. That'd probably make my life a lot easier. For the description here, Viggo. There we go. You can see that if you are going to use tears to wine, you go and put it into your tears to wine, and you realize, like, oh boy, that is some potent wine. It packs a punch. Like, it almost seems like whatever this goop is comprised of, whatever it is that makes this work, which you're not able to break down the chemistry of it, because simple fact of the matter it is, you can't identify it. You can't break down its basic components, but it amplifies the magic that you're using. It makes it an incredibly valuable resource. Unfortunately, you only had enough with you that you brought with you to do basic experimentation. You don't even have enough to properly put into like a full potion after cleaning out the dirt from it and the experimenting and so on and so forth. But it definitely makes this idea that like a theory that if you were to use correct proportions into a potion, you can make that potion that much more powerful, like greatly increasing the reactions. This does raise a question for you, though. When you see that it has this kind of an impact on potion use, it makes you wonder how much of an impact it would have if it was able to be used with, say, spells, like directly from the source.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. All right, I'll note that down for if I ever get the chance to test it.
Yep, if you can ever get your hands on some more of it.
Yeah.
Write a letter to the warden, feet up in the air, lying in your bed, get you like your feather pen out. Dear warden, I was wondering if you could.
Oh, by the way, did you get arrested?
Yeah, we might be seeing the warden soon, right? He might be here.
Send me that goo.
And also sturge heads.
Yes.
Lots of sturge heads. Luckily for you, those are found everywhere. But the sturges and that region are just particularly aggressive. Anyways, so anything else your characters were doing before you go to meet with C-Pro?
Let's just. Oh, for me, I'm just ready to meet with Zippo.
Nothing else.
Okay. So when you guys actually go to have your meeting with C-Pro, again, I feel bad doing this without Neil, but just to actually have that meeting take place. So when you guys go to have your meeting with C-Pro and you go and meet with her, again, this is several days later. You guys got to have a solid 5 days of leave between now and between when you arrive and when you actually have to meet with her. So you're fully healed. Even your scars are doing pretty well. You're well rested, well fed. Like things are actually feeling pretty nice. I don't know if you guys went and checked in on your, what's the word I'm looking for here? Your commissary? We buy stuff from. If you went and checked on your balance there, but if I remember correctly, you ran it in the negatives, didn't you? You ran it in the red?
I don't know this.
Yeah, Neil did something.
Neil did. That was right. Yeah.
Yeah, Neil ran it in the red. I imagine you checked on it once or twice in the days that had passed, but it's not like you're there every day, like clicking check my account, check my account, check my account. But you would notice that it's still in the red, and because of the fact that it's in the red and you've been gone for a period of time, it had like an interest tack on happen to it. You're like, oh shit, who did this? Who got the last authorized transaction? And you look at it, and you're like, Tristan. And you're like, I get it. He doesn't understand math. So,
what are we at negative wise so I can add it to, so I can keep track of it?
You guys marked it before, didn't you? Or did Neil?
I did, because I never knew about it.
Yeah.
If he didn't, I'm going to have to punish him. And we'll make a handout for you guys to keep better track of it.
He might have it in his own notes.
Yep, so I'm double checking that really quickly before. So
no, you may not be able to see his notes.
Oh, his own personal notes on the sheet. Gotcha.
Yeah. That's where mine are. Mine are kept in my own personal notes.
Yep, he doesn't have it on the sheet, so I don't want to waste any more time on this. But it's in the red. Okay. With a small interest tacked onto it. Anyways, so you are going to finally go meet with C-Pearl. So this time, as compared to before, where she met you in the debriefing room, she's actually going to invite you to meet with her in her office. But her office that she has, because even though she's stationed here, she actually is stationed here to the point where she has a home here, which you didn't know that. Instead, what it is when you're kind of summoned, you're actually summoned, you're given an address to meet with C-Pearl. So you're not going to the large building that we described beforehand. That's almost like a college campus, military academy, so on and so forth. Instead, you're actually given an address to go to where you see that she has a home over inside a rather nice district. I mean, let's be honest, it's not as nice as the house that you grew up in. You know what I'm saying? But it's a nice home inside of a district that's specifically reserved for not just people with money. It's also predominantly, and again, you get the idea, as somebody who grew up in a neighborhood like this, you know what this feels like. This is one of those neighborhoods that just aren't wealthy people. This is neighborhoods that are military and wealthy people. So like a good 85, 90% of the homes here are going to belong to active or retired officers and their families, or just extremely wealthy people that rub elbows with them so consistently that they are also very comfortable and whatnot here. You know, like the lobbyist kind of nobility, right? So
this is not a place you should rob.
No. Oh God, no. It's also one of those neighborhoods where, you know, people are like, it's a nice neighborhood, but like every other house definitely has a kid on meth. You know what I mean? Like, speaking of kids on meth, hi, Brittany. The bagels for you? No. Thank you. Hi, Brody. No. You go with her. Are you gonna shut the gate for me? Oh, the cat comes in. I'll shut the gate. So, anyways, so the you go walking into this neighborhood, and it's really nice. When I say it's really nice, it's one of the ones where they have the cobblestone streets, but the cobblestone is so well maintained that the bump between each stone in the cobble, whatever you want to call it, it is very light. Like you can see that wagons move relatively smoothly compared to some of the other streets that you see, where it's like being
The-
inside
when
them.
you talk in the wagon, you get the.
Yeah. So it's actually designed extremely well. The whole place is kept very well. You can see lots of gardeners all about, kind of taking care of people's lawns and whatnot. Everything's just well maintained, right? So when you go walking up, you actually discover the address that is hers. You can see because there are, in fact, they have their own personal mail receptacles here. Like they actually receive mail at their home, whereas most people have to go and schlub it downtown to pick it up from a local department or whatever it is. So when you go to her home and you knock on the door, this might catch you off guard, but it's not like some servant or whatever it is that opens the door. She actually comes over and opens the door herself. So she'll open the door and say, oh, welcome. You are 15 minutes early. I should have expected that. Please come in.
Salute and enter.
Yep. It's funny to salute outside of our house, but makes sense. You
Yeah,
salute
it's,
and
weird, it's weird, but he'll do it.
you enter in. Tristan, of course, looking around like, damn. It's quite the house. When you guys go walking in, it's of course well decorated. Again, it has that kind of Jake, you can go ahead and roll me a knowledge nobility check, I guess it would be. You actually have ranks in that.
Yeah, I have ranks in a lot of knowledge skills.
Tesh, technically you can too, but I don't think you have not ranks in that one.
Not even Virgil has ranks in knowledge and ability, I think.
Yeah, because it wouldn't apply most of the time for your...
It's not something I would give Virgil books to read about. It's not something I would like train Virgil to read in. So he would.
Makes sense. So one of the things that you realize very quickly from walking into this place, while to the two of them, it seems very well like, oh my God, this place is so gorgeous. Look at these walls. Look at the ceiling. Look at that chandelier. Look at these stairs. Look at that banister. Look at that banister. Is that entire banister wrapping everything made out of one log? No, hold up. Is that entire banister made out of legitimately one log? Because you can't even see a seam in its design. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's so incredibly well made for them to have this here. But you notice the fixings. There are portraits on the walls. There is furniture here. Most likely, it looks rather new. You get the impression this was a recently purchased home. So, like, she hasn't made it her home yet. It's her house. Yeah. It's not yet her home. So you kind of get the impression that things have been going well enough for her recently that that she was able to purchase a home in this kind of district, which, as far as you understand, would probably cost, do you have an appraise check? Which you can do because you know this area. The others can't.
I don't have ranks in it. It's not a trained skill, though.
It doesn't require to be trained. What's up, Tesh?
There was a 5 dice left on the screen when I tabbed back over, and I saw the 25, and I was like, "Do you have a plus 20?"
No.
Not quite that good.
15.
Still amazing. But
really good coffee, Brett. What flavor is it?
I love the disparity. Oh, it's plus 15, plus 3.
Oh, when are people picking it up? Oh, that makes things complicated. 1 second, I'm so sorry. Because I have to get to work.
No worries.
Yeah, this is one of those skills that I was talking about.
You
where
do have a
my
plus 20
drawback.
fucking craft alchemy. Goddamn.
No, that's if I use the luck spell thing that I have.
Oh, okay. That's still pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's good.
Goddamn.
Skilled guy. Yeah.
Yeah, you do what you do well. I have acrobatics and perception and sense motive. Those are my good stuff. I do have a plus 8 on auto hypnosis now, which means with a plus 8, I have to hit a 15 to stabilize myself if I go unconscious. So I have a lot better chance of that now.
Yeah.
Don't know why I invested.
I am so sorry. So the short little recap. Remember, I bought this house from somebody that I know. As like a favor, we've allowed them to keep a bunch of like stuff storage in like our basement and so on and so forth. But including that was actually their old washer and dryer because they didn't need it with the place that they bought and moved to. That it came with one. So they've been trying to sell it since we bought the place almost 2 years ago. So somebody finally just bought it. And I was getting a heads up that just need to make sure it's good to be taken out by the people buying it. So Anyway, so the
No
you
good
go
on the
walking
approach.
in. You go walking in, and you're looking at this place. You're like, this place is nice. Like, it's expensive, but you honestly never had to worry about real estate because you were a kid and just grew up in a house that your parents had. So you didn't know its value, and you never got to handle the assets of the home because your brother took care of all that stuff because you became a Metahina. So you don't know. Either way, you can tell it's a recently purchased home, and you can definitely see, Jake, you don't even need to roll a sense motive. You can get that impression from looking at her that she has that kind of like discomfort. Like, it wouldn't surprise you if this was the first time she's taking a meeting inside this home.
Okay.
Okay. So she says, come this way, my I'll lead you to my office. And she'll bring you over to, I mean, the room has like a beautifully carved door. I mean, that thing looks old. So whoever owned this home beforehand, they clearly like had a well-made, like a well-designed door on the wall. And it even has like the peridot like sigil right on it and whatnot. It was probably also somebody who was in the military. You can kind of get that impression. She opens up the door and you can see the office fully furnished. 100%. Everything that she had been saving up, like, you know, is one of those things where one day I'll get my office and this is going first room she set up. Absolutely. And it looks amazing. Just again, the
I was just gonna say, I know exactly how that feels because I've got all of the stuff ready to put on the shelves when I eventually can afford shelves behind me.
You know what I'm talking about. Like, we all know what I'm talking about. So she has, like, we're talking like the built-ins, its own fireplace, all this stuff. It was all done. You can tell by the floors, the walls, everything was just completely refinished. This place looks amazing. Even the quality of chairs that are there, like, you could just see, like, she's going to clearly invite you to sit down. Just the level of like the leather chairs that are there, the quality of leather, everything about them suggests that again, you're probably not the first people to see here, but the first proper meeting she's had here. So she opens up the door and you guys see this office, and it is damn fine. I don't know. I'm going to leave an opportunity in case anybody chooses to make a comment. Like, I don't know if Jake would, or if he'd keep it to himself.
He would keep it to himself.
Mm-hmm.
Not on a personal level with the commander.
Yeah, I imagine Tristan would be like,
Yeah, I was about to say, I love the idea that like Viggo's getting all these really intricate details, and here's Galen. Well, this is nice.
Yep. Tristan just sitting there.
Didn't realize that he stepped in some of what's his horse's name?
No.
Oh,
No. I was like, do not go there with that. That's messed up. Oh boy. Let's not do that to Neil. We shit on Neil enough, right? So anyways, so yeah, she invites you in, and you hear kind of like an exclamation from Tristan, and then she says, if you would like to have a seat, I just had something I was in the middle of. I'll be joining you shortly. And then you guys can go in, and she'll walk out of the office. She leaves the door open. She doesn't like shut it behind you or anything. She leaves the door open, and you can hear her walking like to a couple different rooms in the house, and then upstairs for about a minute or two, and then comes back downstairs. She ends up joining you about 5 of, whereas you were here about 1/4 of, right? So I will leave that 10-minute gap of time for you guys. I don't know if you say anything, if you do anything, or if you both just, or all three of you just kind of sit there twiddling your thumbs. I know Tristan would definitely have comments to say if Neil was here, but go ahead.
Viggo doesn't state anything really.
Yeah, it's just awkward 10 minutes of just like.
Viggo probably starts reading, to be honest.
Okay, sure. So he kind of like pulls out his maybe the shorthand version of the notes that he said of the report that he had sent to her, kind of like studying up on what it is to talk about. Galen?
Honestly, just sort of looking around the room, just it's one of those things where you're not so much looking for any reason to like any insights or anything. You're just like, well, that's interesting. That's interesting. You know, when you're just in somewhere where they've got a lot of stuff up from.
So you're like looking throughout the stuff. Why don't you go ahead and roll a perception check, actually?
Okay. Ooh.
Jesus. Okay. One of the things that you notice that she has on her shelves, because she different people organize differently. Like, here's an example. Tesh, I don't know if you own DVDs anymore, but let's assume that you own some DVDs or console video games. Do you organize your DVDs by alphabet? Do you organize them by category, or do you not organize them? You just have them thrown up in there.
I was very much not organized. I at least organized them by like genre.
So category.
Yeah.
So by category.
Category. Okay.
Right. I'm an alphabet person. Category be damned. Alphabetized everything. But you ignore things like or the. It's the actual word of the title. So if it's called The Empire Strikes Back, it's just Empire Strikes Back, right? Continuing. So you can see that she definitely has hers organized by category, but because she, as you've picked up with her interactions with her beforehand, she's particularly type A. It's not just categorized, it's also alphabetized within that. And one of the things that you notice is you notice a book that looks familiar, and you're like, huh. And then a couple books over, you notice another book that looks familiar. Like, And then you look over there and you realize that entire shelf, or at least most of that shelf, is all a Maltese military text. That's all a Malta military readings, like strategy guides, education books, so on and so forth. Like she has an entire almost shelf of it.
Huh. I'm not sure if he'd bring it, especially not now, but I'm not sure if he would bring that up. That would definitely be something that would be the sort of like, he'd almost like zone out thinking about that for like the remainder of the time, just sort of like, that's really interesting. It's like wondering why she would have that, whether it's just because she has the things, or whether if it's like that sort of thing where you think of all the different possibilities regardless of how possible they are, sort of thing.
So
that's really
one of the other things that you would notice, and of course it's written in Citesian, right? Not Perrin, but one of the things that you would notice is one particular book that catches your eye is one that you've not seen, but it's the name there. It says the name of the book is Amoralta. But like the way that the coloration of the actual text is, you can see that it looks like a blend of two words. Like sometimes you'll see like two words put together, but they intentionally choose like a white and a red fonts to show that it's two different words to really accent it. So it's called Amoralta. And then the subtitle to it is The Rise and Fall of the Morality of a Malta. It's one of the things that you can see as a book that's written there, and is written in Tasian. But the most strange part about it is, of all the books on her shelf in the Maltese category, it is by far the newest book. Like, looking at it from where you are, you would be surprised if the spine was cracked. If the spine was broken. You know what I mean? I love On the Ice Wall.
Definitely taking note of that. Whether he wouldn't bring it up now, or it depends on how things play out if he ever does bring it up. But that is definitely, he very much takes note of that.
Okay. So again, the subtitle, The Rise and Fall of the Morality of the Malta, because subtitles are always long-winded. Anyways, so you guys would be waiting there for about the 10 minutes time. Tristan making his little comments, asking about different things. Is right comfy, huh? Huh? I bet none of you lot ever sat in a chair as comfy as this, huh? Huh?
I bet I have.
The funny thing is, we probably both have.
So either way, I was nursed in a chair. So she eventually comes walking in. Like I said, about 5 of, she finally comes walking in. And as she walks in, she'll actually shut the door behind herself, which again is a little weird, because like you would do that in the military academy, because like other people walk by, you don't necessarily see it, but she's in her own home. So again, this is a little strange. She clicks it shut. And you can even see one of those moments where as she like comes over and she does her initial lines, they'll give you in a moment. You can see her look over your shoulder, kind of like coming to that realization, like, why did I do that? You know, like as people do. Anyway, she comes walking around. She says, my apologies for keeping you waiting, gentlemen. I trust that you at least found comfort.
Indeed.
Yes, we did. Thank you. We did sit here early after all.
She goes to the other side of the desk, and she stands on the other side, but like just to the side of it, like where she just walked around, one hand on the desk. And she stops and says, before she sits, she stops and says, I know it's rather early, but would any of you care to have a drink?
I'd love one. Thank you.
Again, it's rather customary in the Paradil military that when you're having a formal, informal meeting inside of an office, that you would have a drink. It's actually kind of a signifier to like be at ease. So whereas Tristan, who's actually usually very respectful, is still like straight backed and it's like, I'm in front of the, like a battle commander right now. I need to be very well behaved. You understands this Vigo as being like a signal, like we be respectful, clearly, but because it's a formal meeting, but let it lax a bit. So she'll actually go over and she gestures towards Gallon, who of course turns it down because he always turns it down.
No, well, he would take it. He would just like a small amount. Like what is there a way to say like a small amount?
Yeah.
For
so as you walk over, so like as she goes over to pour it, you can imagine like Vigo says 2 fingers. You know what I mean, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And you can be like just one, and it's Tristan would actually kind of give that look over to Vigo, like, all right. And so he won't go above you. He'll just take whatever Vigo takes to be respectful. And so she pours a drink for each of you. It comes over and places the drinks in front of each of you. There are coasters in front of each of you.
Yeah.
When you take a sip of the drink that's there, it's actually a brandy. It is incredibly smooth. It's a very smooth brandy. You're not going to anything hard like scotch because it's too early in the day for something like that. Brandy's, not as aggressive. So it's incredibly smooth. She then finally takes her seat. And she finally starts off with, I had read in the entire report that you had given to me, and it seems as though you had rather strange experiences while you were into the Barren Lands. I have to say that it is a little bit concerning, the fires in the sky, their interpretation of it, and what it was that you had discovered there. But I wanted to hear your opinion of the matter beyond what you had written in the reports. Do you believe there's any credence to the assumption of what was put forward by the tribes that are there?
What was the assumption? Sorry, that was the assumption about the sky, right?
The sky, them thinking it's the Horde, and then seeing a bunch of people together.
Okay, so they thought the sky meant a new Horde, right?
Yeah, that's what they thought. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember.
Mm-hmm. You're good.
Well, they were obviously gathering long before the sky turned red, so I wouldn't equate the two. Lots of different peoples and places have things signify things. This might be taken as an omen for something, and in another place it's different again. But I tend to agree with the CW in that regard. However, in my opinion, my uneducated opinion in this subject, I believe it is a cause of concern, the behavior that we witnessed.
Well, the behavior, certainly. It's just the meaning behind the behavior that I'm curious about. She turns to Gallon as he looks to speak.
Yeah, I too think that the sky at least should be separated from goings on in the Barren Lands. As from where we were located and where it came from, I don't believe it crossed, or at least it came from. It was northwest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it came from the northwest, which was where we were. Wasn't the Barren Lands, so I would hesitate to say that I don't think they're connected.
Truth be told, I don't believe so either. It seems as though this burst of light, similar to the two that happened prior, though they weren't seen this far out, has originated in Adir. It seems Adir is a interesting place as of late. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up moving in that direction sometime in the near future.
If I may, going back,
Which turns to you.
We may have an issue though, because while we assume that it's not connected, the Kuruk, as they're referred in the Barren Lands, may take this as a sign and start assembling.
Indeed.
It may not have been on many of their minds beforehand. It very well could be now.
That's a good
Yes.
point, but something that we will have to look into. I imagine you're not asking to be stationed along the rivers.
Mild panic.
Yeah, Viggo kind of stifles like a cough.
I didn't think so. Besides, there are more important matters for you to take care of. I wanted to go over a couple of the details that were inside this report. It seems as though you've been able to discover a degree of the terrain, are able to map out everything with the cartography, and so on. Is it true that you actually did this cartography yourself?
I had help, but yes.
And as for this figure that you encountered, so you described them as being, you believe to be human in lineage and non-Karuk in culture, though seemingly having taken a position amongst them, a leadership role amongst them, teaching them to be a bit more industrious and wasteful, which is something that to be concerned about because the Karuk can be rather dangerous when they are starving and without supply. Certainly a matter that will need to be looked into more so. Do you believe that you'd be able to keenly find this location again if you were given the opportunity to navigate it, even without the map?
Without the map, I'm not certain, and one small step is very close to certain death. To be honest, the only reason we did find it was while I had little bits of information to go on, we fed that to a local tribe who happened to be helpful. And that's the only reason I think that we found it.
Yeah, I see here the assistance of the tribe that was you had rather pleasant dealings with a Grika, who you were introduced to as a Tony through a Tristan. Nope, my apologies. A Tethys.
Indeed.
Yes,
Yep.
I had Tristan guard the boat.
Yep.
So,
It was a brilliant decision. Personally, I would have left Gallon to guard the boat. He seems to have better skills for such a thing, and taken the rider with me. However, things worked out in your favor, so perhaps you had a better pulse of the situation. Nonetheless, I understand all of this, but um, you don't think that you can navigate that with the aid that you had received prior? You don't think you could figure it out yourself in the future? Putting aside the dangers of the Barren Lands.
I'm unsure, and that is not up to my standard.
I agree. The lack of confidence makes it so that I am not going to sign off on that. There was a request to have is it an experimental procedure that we have working with the Arcane Congress. I'm going to be forthright with you because it was your name had come up with after the report that I had read. I had a meeting with the Arcane Congress recently and mentions your experiences there. They actually requested putting you through the experiments, which I easily could have signed for you to do. You being Inclime, it's my choice. Nonetheless, I want, which is funny to say because Inclime means the choice, but it's supposed to be yours. Anyways, with you being Inclime, it was my choice. But the experiment, while would give you the ability to visit that place again, utilizing a type of magical sensor, if you will, to view the area, to gather more information, a degree of espionage. Because it's a spell being put on your mind, or whatever effect being put in your mind as opposed to the person originating the ability, it could have lasting side effects if it goes poorly. And I have to say that your mind is rather keen, and I am not keen on losing it. So.
He'll nod appreciatively, but not too appreciatively.
Yeah. She says, however, if you do feel as though you might have the confidence to safely travel with your minds to that location to appropriately view the area and gather more information for us, let it linger.
He lets it linger.
Eventually, Tristan kind of clears his throat because it's an awkward silence that goes on for a bit, and the show's just kind of like blink and nod at the same time, like conceding the point, and then says, "Then we will not sign you off on that one." And she actually takes a paper and flips it over. That's on her desk.
You can see like he kind of relaxes slightly, but then gets rigid again.
Well, not too rigid, remember, not too rigid. So these are comfortable chairs. You're meant to be comfortable in them.
Yeah.
So she says, "Are there any other additional details you'd like to surrender about the information? Because I had read this rather thorough report and feel as though you may have touched on everything. But I'd like to give you this opportunity."
I don't think there was anything else of importance that we hadn't mentioned.
Yeah, no. I mean, everything. Viggo's reports are very thorough.
Yeah, I believe everything is in there.
Terrific. Then let's get down to the real reason why you've come here. And I don't mean today. I have been given a, shall we say, letter of recommendation from each of your four previous commanding officers. And I don't mean immediate commanding officers. I mean higher up the ranks. Letter of recommendation from each of you for various reasons. I will say that some of those reasons pertain to your ability to act in accordance to the orders that are given, and your ability to act in accordance to beyond the orders that are given. And in some scenarios, perhaps the assets and influences that you might have even outside of the military. For these reasons, you were put into a, shall we say, a test, a trial, where I wanted to give you two very different, very out of the comfort zone tasks for the three of you. Sending you into the Magadan was not something that any of you had any real experience with, perhaps aside from Tristan, but we can all agree that the swamps around Magadan is well outside of his comfort zone. You went up there and performed brilliantly. And I'm not saying this because you reported as such. I'm saying this because the warden reported as such. Because part of your tasks that you were given were also the task given to each of the commanders in the areas that you went to, full reports of your behavior, your actions, etc., etc. And for your actions up in the Magadan, I have received glowing remarks, sticking to your orders, stepping outside where you felt as though it was necessary, and politely turning down any additional influence to do more work where you felt as though it was going to put your team at risk. These are commendable skills for somebody who's leading a team, and the two of you for acting in the ways that you did and when you did. Brilliant what you've discovered in dealing with the trolls. This is something that has already been put into place for more testing. If the testing continues to prove fruitful, we will scale this up. We'll continue with a greater production of this kind of potpourri, if you will, and continue teabagging the river. See to it.
I've just made Regicide's job so much harder because now honeysuckle is going to be everywhere.
She then says, as for what your actual task was there, as you have been able to ascertain to one degree or another, you were in fact reporting back to me details about the warden themselves, and the warden also has performed brilliantly. I say this as somebody who stands a rank above me. I am very happy to announce to the two of you something that's not even going to be publicly announced for 3 more days. So hold this close to your chest. Magadan is now part of Dween.
At that, Viggo, out of character, starts to like almost like clap and he like smile and he stops. His hands back down.
Galen will like do a that sort of well done nod, but even though it's like not like directed at her, it's just like, oh, okay.
Needless to say, this is going to cause a little bit of disruption in the region, but things will settle as they always do. And Magadan will serve far better underneath the River King's commands than it does currently. I think we can all agree that there are some aspects of Magadan that need to be approached. We'll see to those as time goes on. You've also just done this recent task, to which you have reports filled out for you by the Centurion of War that you were sent to work under. What was her name? Whatever her name was. That you were sent to, that you were under the command.
Mr. Dallin.
Dallin.
The CW Dallin gave a report. I do have to say, I'm glad she wrote the report when she did, and that I read that before our meeting today, which is, of course, the intentional along, but because she wasn't the only one that wrote a report of you. You also received a report from the captain of the ship, who had some none-so-kind words to say about your character, about your involvement in the situations that had happened on their ship, or lack thereof, shall I say, and how it was that you kind of handled the overall interaction between your land party and their ship crew. She, of course, countered pretty much everything that he put inside of his letter. I believe she read it before she wrote hers. And then she put additional information forward. I see that you have also signed off on your first promotion. Sponsored your first promotion.
I have. A well-deserved one.
It has gone through. He has received his promotion. It's rewarding, isn't it?
It is.
When somebody's underneath your care, underneath your guidance, and they are able to perform well, not because you told them to do so, but because they were given the opportunity to shine beneath your leadership, with the guidance of your leadership, and to see them continuing to grow. It is one of the most rewarding things that Paradil has to offer all of the people that serve its grand and reaching military. Sorry, I was trying to get to my next point. So putting aside some of his more scathing reviews, because they seem to be none so important, it looks as though you have gathered a considerable amount of information about the barren lands and the ruins thereof. Apparently, these are, in fact, mole ruins. You did some research going into the location and were able to confirm it through architecture and so on. There are recent reports that have come in, actually, that apparently these mole ruins are connected more than we recently believed. The mole were, as you know, a previous society that built within some regions and had outposts elsewhere. That doesn't matter, but there have been recent fluctuations that have been able to be perceived by the Arcane Congress that have been looking into these matters, doing their own studies, etc., that have noticed that reports, studying metadata, if you will, of fluctuations that have happened inside some ruins, just latent magical kind of energy that they apparently study and perceive. This is beyond my understanding. Perhaps you know a bit better than myself. These fluctuations that happen with time or during certain events similarly happen perfectly mirrored at other mole ruins that are outside of just the area. So knowing where there are more certainly gives us a degree of understanding of the matter. They report well on your behavior. The three of you were put together as a bit of a team to work directly for the prince himself, for the River King. The River King has important things that he needs taken care of. The River King has details that need to be handled without there being a lot of messy paperwork, sloppy perspectives, etc. She taps on the documentation that you had left for her beforehand. This is some top-tier documenting of your experiences. This is some of the cleanest reporting that I have ever seen, including my own reporting. I would rank myself beneath yours when it comes to this. And because of that matter, I will inform you that moving forward, every task that you're given will be a task that is given to you, even if through myself, directly from the River King. And every report that you fill out, every report that gets passed in, will be read directly by the Master of War or the River King, by no other eyes beforehand.
Would be honored.
Indeed.
But this does mean that the three of you are going to be put into some different scenarios, uncomfortable scenarios, ones where your skills are going to have to be tested, where you're going to have to think outside the box to be successful. Don't worry, not every task moving forward will feel as dangerous as these past few. But they do require an equal amount of dedication.
So I just Viggo, right, real good.
That was Tristan's
Oh,
perspective.
I looked over at chat at the wrong time. Sorry, go on.
V-Sword is Tristan's spirit animal. So, so anyways, she says this will be putting you into, again, things outside of your comfort zone, so on and so forth. The positive side is you'll be seeing a good amount of Paradel that's likely you haven't seen before, no matter your upbringing. The only way that we can continue on with this, because you are swearing fealty beyond the one that you already have to Paradel, and beyond the one that you already have to the River King, beyond the one that you have already had to Dween, you're swearing silence. One of you is a little familiar with this. How does it sound?
Does Viggo know if this is this like a not common thing, but is it known for this to happen? Obviously, in the military.
So this is more or less acting like a I don't want to say Gestapo because that gives like or a secret police or like that. That gives like a bad impression. More or less like a secret services sort of a thing, or like a King's Guard, if you will. That sort of a thing is like known to exist, right? Like people that report directly to right? But something like this, I mean, almost like intelligence agency-esque stuff. This is the kind of thing that you hear rumors about, but don't have verification for, right?
Really important shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Galen be waiting to see how Viggo reacts, but he's ready to be like, it's an honor.
Yeah, you can see Viggo is thinking. It would be a great honor to do this. May I ask what happens if we survive and Climë finishes?
You mean aside from having the honorifics of the various ranks that you'll be gathering along the way, as well as becoming a full citizen and having all the respect that you would command at that point in time from those in the military and the citizens around it? Aside from the lifelong experiences you're going to be able to apply moving forward and teach to your children if you choose to formulate a family.
Basically, I want to know after, if we were to live long enough to retire, do you ever retire? Or are we in it for good?
Oh, you can always choose to retire after kind of like in the real military. You sign on for an X period of time. When that period's over, you choose to sign on again or retire. Right?
Okay, yeah.
I don't think this is
knowing
like a
that now
sign-on for life sort of thing. Yeah.
I will agree.
Okay.
Yep,
It would be an honor.
Tristan agrees too. Oh,
I honestly, I mean, Tristan, from what I at least can tell so far, Tristan seems to have respect for the River King.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine he'd be stoked. I mean, we'll wait till next week to find out. But
of course. She says, I'm glad that all of you agree. I should also mention that the position pays well. He then reaches into a...
Galen stifles a chuckle. When she says that, Galen has to catch himself and just...
Even Viggo cracks a smile at that one.
She reaches into a drawer, pulls out paperwork, and says, let's talk about Jovincia. Jovincia. That's what she says. Let's talk about Jovincia. Fade to black or cut to black.
So I just want to add how perfect the way that the campaign's going is for the way my skills are progressing, because I was literally going to talk to you about how I could start training in stealth. Because Trailblazer, I just got the ability to add half my class level to stealth checks, because it actually dulls the crystal and makes the crystal blend in with the environment. So it's like, and I was going to do that because, like in the story, he stood out in the Barren Lands, and he felt like that was a hindrance, and so he wants to train himself to be better himself. And now this comes up, and it's perfect.
Well, one of the important things to note about Jovincia is Jovincia only has 2 rivers, and neither of the rivers are anywhere near Dween.
Ooh.
So we'll worry about that at a different point in time.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, they're both going into.
I was supposed to go and work at 1 o'clock today, but I have to go at noon, so I definitely have to get out of here because like there's an important situation that popped up yesterday that I have to go and personally handle. So I definitely want to be there for noon. So I'm gonna have to blast out of here to go get ready and leave for work. So that being said, why don't we do our outro, and next time when we pick up, we'll actually have her giving the orders for the next task that you guys are going to be handling, and it'll be nice to actually have Neil back. Tesh, why don't you tell us what you're up to?
Hi, I'm Tesh of the Tesh Tube. You can find me under that name on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Follow me on Twitter to keep up to date on all the things I'm doing, like games like this, or follow me on Twitch for every Sunday. I'm doing Fallout 76. I'm going to start doing Ark soon. The mods are starting to get updated. But this Sunday, I may be playing Warframe because there is a online convention that is happening. It is happening at 6:30 a.m. my time. So depending on how I'm doing on the days before, I will decide whether I'm going to stream the actual convention. But I will be streaming later on in the day because they have a habit of dropping stuff the day of for this convention. So TennoCon's happening. So Sunday my time, Saturday American time, Saturday night, Sunday morning, I will be streaming likely Warframe, maybe even the convention.
So 24-hour stream Sunday on Adelaide. All right, cool.
God no, I would die.
That's when you invite a buddy over. You know what I mean? Somebody you can trust, so that they can play while you take quick naps. You know what I mean?
That's
You buy them a fake beard from like a Halloween store, right? So they're sitting there, they got like a wig and a beard on, you know? Come on, that'd be funny. That'd be good stuff.
I have a soundboard of
really
like
funny.
common Tesh phrases.
Yeah. Like, no.
Funny, actually.
Like,
I have half a mind to give Wade my Steam thing and just tell him to pretend to be me, just for just a quick appearance.
you click a button and it's Tesh's voice saying, "Wait here to fuck spiders," or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'll just get him to record a bunch of things on his soundboard of me.
All right.
That would be hilarious. Actually, I kind of want to do that for a charity stream now.
Jake, you got yourself a beautiful audio equipment. Is that just so we can finally hear your sultry voice, or is that because you wanted to you have some special projects coming up that you want to sneak peek?
Not yet. I just was thinking of sounding like a pleb. So,
So
now,
we're not hinting towards any of the things that you have coming up soon. We're keeping that quiet then.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. I said nothing. There's nobody streaming that I know for me to raid, or at least when I press the raid button, it's not popping up with anything. So it could just be Twitch being borked. So that being said, I got to go take a shower because I smell. After work yesterday, I had to go finish doing the plumbing, and I think it's finally all done. I worked all day yesterday, plumbed until 10 o'clock at night, and then finally got ice cream on the way home. Because
there was no one streaming right now.
yeah, it's kind of weird. It is, isn't it? I'll see you guys tonight. Lost Initiative, 9 p.m. EST. It's going to be an awesome session. I'm really excited. If you didn't notice a huge turn in the way things played out last week to this week, the 2 weeks prior to week 3,
catch up.
it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome turns. Lots of fun. I'm excited for it. Joey, I could totally hop onto a call at 11:30. I was hoping to talk to Green at this time, but with work changing from me having to go in at noon instead of 1, I don't have that time to talk to Green. I can definitely do a quick chat for about 25 minutes while I'm driving, and that'll be all. So there'll definitely be a chat. Also, hi, Joey. Bye, everybody.